What if we use the 16GB RTX 5060 Ti to play the latest games on an ultrawide 3440 by 1440p monitor? Will we be able to get a pleasant gaming experience, or is it going to be a total mess? Let's find out. To test this, I paired the MSI Ventus 2X version of the 5060 Ti with the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU as part of the Be Quiet PC build powered by MSI. And we'll be experiencing the games today on one of the best monitors for the job. This is a 175Hz QD OLED MSI 341CQP. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Let's start with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I actually updated DLSS to the latest version using the Nvidia app override feature, so this game now features DLSS 4, and we are at 3440 by 1440 using Nvidia's native resolution, native AA, and no frame generation for now, but we'll take a look at that feature later on. We're using optimized graphics settings that target high graphics quality, so everything is pretty much on either high or very high. Some of these settings are dropped just by one level, which is quite nice actually. I like this configuration of graphics settings. It looks nice. At native resolution, I never expected the 5060 Ti to do well in this game, even with optimized settings. This is just a little bit too much for the 5060 Ti at this resolution, but I'm pretty sure that we will find at least one game where we can get a pleasant experience at native resolution. But mostly, we'll have to rely on resolution upscaling to get us to that pleasant 60 FPS target. Let's try DLSS quality mode. Nope. That is nowhere near enough to actually get us to a pleasant experience on this monitor using this graphics card. We're barely getting 40 FPS, and that is not good enough in my opinion. And it's not quite enough to actually start enabling frame generation. We'll have to lower that upscaling quality even more. Maybe DLSS balanced mode will be okay? Let's see. Nope, not quite, and this actually made the game look absolutely horrible. There is sizzling happening everywhere. Everywhere where there is footage, it's just sizzling away right now. This is unpleasant. Okay, maybe it was a mistake to use the latest DLSS version in this game, because I knew this would happen. I was hoping that this issue might have been resolved already, but no. The normal DLSS that shipped with this game is actually providing a better experience visually so far, so I don't think it's a good idea to actually use overrides in the Nvidia app to update it to DLSS 4. Nah, I don't like it. I don't like how this looks. DLSS quality mode is actually the best thing we can use in this game in terms of visuals, and I adjusted some of these settings a little bit. As you can see, some are dropped to medium now, some went from very high to high, but this is still a pretty good looking image overall in terms of graphics. And that gives us a little bit more performance to work with. We're now in the high 40s in terms of frame rate. While this is not ideal for such a budget-friendly GPU, for this kind of setup, of course. I mean, not in general, because some of you may say, oh, this is expensive. I mean for this kind of setup, okay? Yeah, it's not too bad actually. It's not perfect, but you can still kind of enjoy the game. And that's what matters most, right? Because we haven't spent something like $1,000 plus on the RTX 5080. Let's see what happens if we enable frame generation. Because the biggest issue so far with this game running on the 5060 Ti has been poor image fluidity, which is resolved by using frame generation. And in terms of image fluidity, this is pretty nice now. Obviously, the control's responsiveness is not perfect, but it's okay. I mean, for the price, it's fine. I can still see myself enjoying this game like this, because this is not a first-person shooter, so the responsiveness of the mouse is not as critical. And if you're using a controller, then this kind of experience will be absolutely fine. By the way, check out the VRAM usage. Over 9 gigabytes. Getting an 8 gigabyte GPU, not only for this resolution, but for any other resolution, is not a good idea in 2025 if you want to use Nvidia's features as well as higher texture quality. There's one more thing I'd like to try, and that is DLSS balanced paired with frame generation. Using the same optimized settings, the image quality is not as good, so that's the trade-off. But the FPS is a little bit higher. We're getting more real frames, which makes the controls feel more responsive, which is nice. As you can see, you have options. At least this game is playable with this combination, 5060 Ti combined with the ultra-wide monitor. It is doable. Next up is Kingdom Come Deliverance. This game is easier to run. Let's have a look at the settings. We're using Ultra Graphics Quality preset. This is not the maximum. The maximum is experimental, but that is, I think, a little bit too much for the 5060 Ti. So we'll start with the Ultra preset. And we are using native anti-aliasing DLSS 4 transformer model. So this is native resolution. This is promising. High 40s out of the gate. Yeah, I think we can make this game work pretty well with the help of resolution upscaling. Check it out. We are not dropping below 40 FPS at all. Let's go ahead and enable DLSS 4 quality mode. Yes, this is it. This is looking good. The game performs really well. Well above 60 FPS, 69 actually, very nice. It lingered there for a while. Great. And by the way, DLSS 4 in this game looks very good. It has a native implementation of DLSS 4, so it's nothing like what we've seen in Assassin's Creed Shadows. The image quality is actually superior to DLSS 3, which is pretty much what you want to see. Yeah. Even using resolution upscaling on this monitor and this resolution, everything looks beautiful, nice and crisp. I can see all the fine details. It's just a beautiful experience. 60 plus FPS. What more could we ask for? And once again, I would like to point out that we are using above 8 gigabytes of memory, 9.2 gigabytes to be precise. If you want even more FPS, you can lower the image quality to high, for example. Let's see what that's like. That gives us another nice FPS boost. We're now well above 90. That's the next level of gaming experience after 60, in my opinion. This is a very nice fluid experience, which is especially nice on an ultra-wide monitor because, I don't know about you, but for some reason, when I'm playing games on an ultrawide monitor where there's like a lot of peripheral vision available to me, 60 FPS is it's not quite the same experience as on a regular 16:9 monitor. It can feel a little bit choppy at times, but 90 FPS is the way to go for this kind of monitor. It's just so smooth, the image is fluid, the immersion is higher thanks to that. Brilliant. I wonder, can we achieve the same kind of FPS using the Ultra Graphics Quality preset? Maybe if we use DLSS balanced mode? Let's see. No, not quite. That is not quite enough. But we're getting a solid 70 plus FPS experience. And the image quality is actually not bad. Even on the balanced mode, this looks quite good. Of course, the overall presentation is softer now because the DLSS model has fewer pixels to work with. But this is still playable and enjoyable. There are no major visual issues. There's just tiny little bit of sizzling happening in some of that foliage, but it's minor. It's nothing like what you'd get with FSR 3.1, for example. And when you're looking at objects that are near you, such as this horse, for example, even its hair, it looks quite detailed. Yeah. So closer details are very well preserved. It's only when you look a little bit further into the distance, you start noticing that, yes, indeed, the quality is not the same, but it's not a big deal. I mean, it's a fair trade-off, more FPS for slightly lower image quality. This is still a playable experience. Let's check how the good old Cyberpunk is doing on this GPU. We'll use high graphics quality preset, but we'll also take a look at the ray tracing experience in this game just a little bit later. We'll select DLSS, the latest model, so this is DLSS 4, transformer model, native resolution for now, and yeah, basically 100 field of view. I'll turn off film grain and motion blur, all that stuff that makes the image blurry or unpleasant in any way. High graphics quality preset, let's go. Yes, that's what we want to see. Well above 50 FPS. Very nice. This is native resolution. Wow, okay. 60 plus in other scenes. Pretty good, pretty good. We haven't even used DLSS resolution upscaling yet, so the game looks absolutely crisp and beautiful. Essentially, we could just slap some frame generation on top of this to make the image smoother and call it a day, but I don't think that's the best option. The best option is to actually use that resolution upscaling. Let's set it to quality mode and see what happens. Let's flip and go! Close to 90 FPS. What? Very nice. Nice and fluid image on the screen. Beautiful experience, actually. This is great. And this game looks pretty good even without ray tracing. Obviously, ray tracing gives it that bit of realism, because at the moment, because of the lighting, yeah, the game looks just like a game, like any other 3D game that we're used to by now. But ray tracing gives it depth and realism. And this is actually one of the games that you can play on an 8GB graphics card, because we're using just slightly above 7GB of memory, although in some cases it's coming really close to that 8GB limit. Take a look at that. Sometimes 7.5 GB is used, okay? So it's still not a good idea to use an 8GB GPU in 2025. Even in older titles such as Cyberpunk 2077, which has been around for quite a while. Because, for example, if I want to slap frame generation on top of this, let's see what happens. Let's enable it. We'll use the 2x frame generation mode because it provides the best experience in my opinion. This is the best balance between image quality and image fluidity provided by the multi-frame generation. I think that the 3x and 4x modes are just not worth it. They're making the image feel worse. It's just worse quality. And take a look at that VRAM usage. We've surpassed the 8GB limit, okay? So if you want to use Nvidia's features, then 8GB is not enough even in older games. Probably we would be okay with an 8GB graphics card in this particular scenario, but you never know. Various games present issues with VRAM limitation differently. Some will work okay, some will stutter, and some will just drop some of the texture quality on some of the objects, and you might not even be able to tell that you're actually not getting the experience you hoped for and paid for, right? But damn, check it out. This is a high refresh rate experience. Above 120 FPS, of course, this is generated, but in a AAA game like this one here, with the RTX 5060 Ti, it is the only way to saturate a high refresh rate monitor. And it works. This experience is pretty good. I have no complaints. But of course, without ray tracing, the reflections, as well as lighting, they just don't look great exactly. This game feels much better with ray tracing, visually that is, of course. So let's go ahead and try that next. I'll disable frame generation, okay, and let's keep DLSS on quality mode and enable ray tracing. Hold on, where is it? I'm missing something. Yeah, there it is. Ray tracing enabled, and we'll turn all of this on, and lighting set to ultra. Path tracing stays off because that is just way too demanding, even for high-end GPUs. So I don't think it's worth checking that out. If we can get a good experience using the Ultra ray tracing preset, then I'll be very happy. I'm not expecting it to work really well, but if it does, that will be amazing. God damn it, I forgot to enable ray reconstructions once more. Yes, you really should use ray reconstruction because it makes a massive difference to the image quality. I'll show you now, okay? Check this out. It doesn't really cost that much to use this setting. It pretty much costs nothing to use, but the image quality is much better. If you look at the reflections, they are just much cleaner, much more realistic. Without ray reconstruction, there's just way too much noise in those reflections, so you're basically using up all of this ray tracing performance, dropping your FPS for pretty much almost nothing. And that is one of the reasons why it's best to use Nvidia graphics cards to experience ray tracing, because Nvidia has ray reconstruction to take care of that noise in the ray traced effects. AMD doesn't have that, and no one knows when and if they will actually make such a feature available to us. It's a shame, because the RX 9000 series GPUs from AMD are actually quite good at ray tracing, in terms of performance, that is. But damn, in terms of the image quality, Nvidia GPUs still are the best. They're the only game in town pretty much when it comes to ray tracing. But that performance is not quite good enough, so maybe let's try lowering the ray traced lighting quality to medium. Let's see if that will help. It hasn't made any massive improvements to our performance. It's still pretty much almost the same FPS, a little bit higher, so I guess that's nice. We can build upon that. And next, I think it's best to lower the resolution upscaling quality. Let's set it to balanced and see if that's enough. All right, we're really close to that 60 FPS target of ours. 50-ish FPS already, but there are some dips into mid-40s and upper 40s from time to time. So you can kind of already experience ray tracing in some capacity. If you're okay with this kind of frame rate, then there you go. You can experience ray tracing on the 5060 Ti, all right? And if you want to do that, you definitely want more than 8 GB of memory, because check it out, even when we're using DLSS balanced, so we're upscaling from a much lower resolution than 1440, we're still using well above 10 GB of memory, because ray tracing costs VRAM to run. And DLSS balanced still looks okay in this game. DLSS performance, not so much, so I don't think it's worth enabling. But just in case, let's check it out anyway, because I'm just curious. Can we get a 60 plus FPS experience consistently whilst using ray tracing? Yeah, it indeed appears so. DLSS performance delivers us that 60 plus FPS experience. And let's go back to the market area. Oh, 58 FPS. But come on the 5060 Ti, this is pretty good, okay? Of course, it's not perfect, but for the price, it's pretty amazing what can be achieved. And the DLSS performance mode is still usable, but yeah, you have to make sure that you're okay with some of the visual imperfections that will be present in the game. A lot of the finer details are absolutely lost, like the foliage on some of those palm trees, and some of the wires. Basically anything that is sharp or thin is not gonna look that great. However, if you're just running around fighting enemies, then it's not too bad, because you are not going to be focusing on those minor imperfections all the time. It's only when you want to just stop and appreciate the landscape, then you'll notice, but I think it's okay. It's not as bad as some of the other upscalers out there, or the earlier version, DLSS 3, that did not look good on the performance mode at all. But this is actually usable. It's not particularly enjoyable, but it's usable. And of course, we can slap frame generation on top of that to improve the image fluidity and get close to 100 FPS in the game. Yes, the image fluidity is feeling good, but we're still using DLSS performance mode. And the thing with the frame generation is that it amplifies some of those visual imperfections that we're getting from using DLSS resolution upscaling around the edges of the characters, for example, or on the thinner objects, as I mentioned previously, or foliage. This is still usable, but once again, you have to be okay with some of those imperfections. I know that some people are extremely sensitive to that, but if you are not, then this is a perfectly good experience. And of course, you can always increase that resolution quality by selecting DLSS balanced, because we had something like 50 plus FPS using that with the ray tracing setting. So that works as well. The image quality is nicer because DLSS has more pixels to work with. And the image fluidity is still fine. The controls, latency, yes, it's acceptable, I would say. This is a first-person shooter, so if you are really sensitive to that controls responsiveness, then you may notice something, but I'm just running around here, aiming at different things, and yeah, it's pretty good. I have no issues aiming exactly where I want to, and it's happening quickly enough for me to be satisfied with the controls responsiveness. And because we're using DLSS balanced now, some of those issues, visual issues, are less pronounced, and the overall image quality on the screen now looks acceptable and even enjoyable, I would say, because we're running this game with ray tracing enabled, with all the reflections, shadows. My god, this is actually quite impressive. I just love reflections. They make the game feel alive and real. Although now that I'm looking at it more closely, yeah, because we are upscaling from such a low resolution already, some of the characters have issues with face features as well. But I noticed that only because I was specifically looking for that. Overall, I think this is a good enough experience, especially considering the price of this GPU. It's not gonna cost you an arm and a leg. It's not gonna be like a $1,000 GPU like the RTX 5080. Yeah, it is quite amazing that you can already experience ray tracing in some of the games on a budget, actually, at this resolution. Pretty good. And there are plenty of fairly well optimized games out there that are a little bit older, for example Horizon Forbidden West, that still work perfectly fine on the RTX 5060 Ti. For example, this is maxed out graphics settings, native resolution, and we are already getting well above 50 FPS, okay? Check this out. Even the field of view is maxed out. Everything else is maxed out as well. Native resolution, DLAA, all right? But now, let's enable resolution upscaling. Let's set it to quality mode and see what happens. DLSS really is quite incredible for this kind of AAA games because it delivers a beautiful experience visually, and the FPS is higher now. Take a look at that. We're well above 60 FPS, reaching 80s sometimes. Beautiful, beautiful image quality. Even if you have some older games that you want to play, you can always count on DLSS to deliver a beautiful experience and high frame rates. Monster Hunter Wilds is one of those games that has an absolutely horrible optimization, but it is still very popular, so I thought, why not check it out? Let's see. We are at 3440 by 1440. The graphics settings are set to the high preset, and ray tracing is set to high as well. Upscaling set to quality mode, because I'm pretty sure that we'll need it. Let's take a look at other settings. Yes, this is high graphics quality preset, okay? I just disabled, hold on, did I disable? Wait a second. Let's just do that, okay? High graphics quality preset. Yeah, you see, it defaults to DLSS balanced. I don't want that, so let's select quality mode. That's what's changing this thing to custom, okay? Everything else is still set as per the high quality preset. And let's disable depth of field, because that just blurs the image. We don't want that. This experience is very far from ideal. It feels very choppy, and as always, when you start panning the camera in this game, the FPS drops even further. Horrible, horrible experience in terms of game optimization. I've seen people defend this game for some reason, saying, oh, this is looking great. No, it's not looking great. Horizon Forbidden West looks better than this, and it runs like twice as well in terms of FPS, okay? And if you're thinking, oh, that's because of ray tracing, right? No. Take a look at this. We're getting something like 49, 50 FPS with the ray tracing enabled, okay? And if we go ahead and disable ray tracing completely, let's take a look at the difference. We've gained something like 5 FPS. So it's not a huge deal. But I guess if you want at least any kind of chance of enjoying this game on this monitor, then yeah, you probably need every little bit of FPS that you can get your eyes on. All right? And I think we'll have to use that DLSS balanced mode, as the game suggested. By the way, I used the Nvidia app to override DLSS in this game to the latest version, DLSS 4. So this is the latest model with the highest quality. And we're still not getting a consistent 60 FPS experience. There are drops to low 50s even, all right? Which means that if you want at least a decent kind of image fluidity in this game, then you just have to use frame generation. There is no way around it. The game is actually pushing you towards using frame generation. I remember the first time I fired it up, the game kept pushing me to use frame generation, like, oh, just use frame generation. And then you're trying to enter the game and it's like, oh, it feels better with frame generation. No wonder, Sherlock, because you forgot to optimize your freaking game. That's why you need frame generation to hide that thing, right? But yeah, this is not a particularly pleasant experience, but at least it's playable, so you can kind of enjoy the game. Kind of, if you're okay with this kind of experience. If you really, really want to play this game, then you'll have to endure this. Right. It's not the worst, but it's far from being enjoyable and smooth. I think it is safe to conclude that the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB model is actually able to deliver a pretty playable experience on the ultrawide 3440 by 1440p monitor. Yeah. Obviously, we have to use resolution upscaling to get us there, but it's pretty good. The quality was pretty good, although in some of the latest games that are not very well optimized, such as Assassin's Creed Shadows, for example, it was quite difficult to achieve a pleasant image quality on the screen in combination with good image fluidity. Yeah, frame generation was definitely needed there, and it wasn't a perfect experience, but in some of the other games, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Cyberpunk, Horizon Forbidden West, all of those work absolutely fine, and they are beautiful looking games, so you can have a lot of fun with the 5060 Ti paired with an ultrawide monitor. I highly recommend it if you're thinking about it. It's a good choice. Just make sure that you're getting the 16GB model and not the horrible 8GB one. Let me know in the comments what do you think about the 5060 Ti. And don't forget to reward my work with a like if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, subscribe for more like this. And if you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon and the links in the description below. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.